Hello, welcome to Community Library Mississippi's speaking series, and today we present De-escalation Basics by two counselors, Ella Lewis and Bettye Tyler. Okay, so we could just do brief introductions.
Hi, I'm Ella Lewis with Ella Lewis Life Coaching.
And I'm Bettye Tyler with Marvellous Works, one of the co-facilitators of this workshop.
And I'm Meredith McGee, the chair of Community Library Mississippi. And Vicki and Patricia or Miss Brenda, you all could, if you have time.
Okay, I'm Joanne
I'm Reverend
Owens.
Patricia Williams.
And I'm Joanne Owens, and just an interested participant.
Thank you for coming.
Mhm.
I think that was everybody.
Did Vicki introduce herself?
Oh, Vicki, are you ready to introduce yourself? I think she's unmuted.
She'll get a chance to introduce herself during the comment session, during the Q&A.
Are y'all talking about me, Brenda?
Yes,
No.
Brenda, you want to introduce yourself?
I am Brenda Coward. Used to be Harmon, but Brenda Coward. And I live in Washington, D.C. I met Bettye Tyler about, 25, 30 years ago. They're in Jackson. And anyway, I'm glad to be on this meeting. I am a member of Al-Anon. And Bettye helped me a lot with that. I'm telling you, she's been my counselor for a long, long time.
That's a dual role. That goes both ways. That serves as a dual role. Someone has a TV or something in the background. If you can turn it down a little.
Vicki, do you have a TV on?
Vicki's on mute.
Oh, she okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm off now, but no, I don't have a TV on.
Okay.
Vicki, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, hello, everybody. My name is Vicki Jenkins, and I am the co-president of the Community Library of Mississippi. Yes, hello.
Okay.
Yes, no. Oh, it's still me. I am the vice chair. I'm the vice chair of the Community Library of Mississippi, and I'm really glad to be here for these interview series. And I wish everybody would has a good knowledge, good thoughts, and good ideas.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all the introduction. I see Miss LaRonda has come on. Ms. Coleman, do you want to introduce yourself? And we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation.
Hey, good afternoon. How y'all doing?
Just fine.
Good. I didn't know how far y'all was into it, but I'm in a situation. I'm actually finna be on the road, so I didn't want to come in enter with any noise or anything. But I am LaRonda Coleman. I am a part of the Community Library of Mississippi organization, and newly appointed voted member, and just a citizen of Jackson, Mississippi. And I am glad to be joining you all tonight.
Thank you for coming.
Okay.
Meredith, we have Miss Marsha has joined. Miss Marsha, we'll give you the opportunity to introduce yourself quickly, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining. You're muted, Felicia.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm Felicia Marshall. I am the founder of Grant Me Justice and a good friend of Meredith, and just excited about being here.
Thank
you for coming.
Okay, now we'll go ahead and get started. Meredith, is there anything you want to interject before we get started?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay, myself, Bettye Tyler, and Ella Lewis will be co-facilitating this presentation. Our presentation, De-escalation Basics. And basically there, we're going to provide you information regarding conflict resolution skills, how to manage and resolve it in a positive manner, and some fundamentals of conflict resolution. Of course, conflict is a normal and even healthy part of relationships. Two people really can't expect to agree on everything at all times. However, since conflicts are inevitable, learning to deal with them in a healthy way and effectively is very crucial. Now, when conflict is mismanaged, it can harm the relationship, and that's whether there's a personal relationship, a working relationship, an intimate relationship, or a church relationship. Our relationship, any interaction with another individual is considered a relationship. And of course, when it's handled in a respectful and positive manner, then the conflict actually provides an opportunity to grow and ultimately strengthen the bond between the two individuals or the two entities or the relationship. Now, by learning the skills we need to have for successful conflict resolution, we have to keep in mind separate both personal and professional ideas that pretty much we operate out of within ourselves. And what I mean by that is, personally, my idea may not necessarily agree with your idea, and then that's where it comes the concept we agree to disagree and move on. So briefly, the fundamentals of conflict resolution. Of course, sometimes when conflict arises, it may seem trivial, and oftentimes it does initially, because when conflict initially arises, and if we don't address it at that time, it continues to keep bubbling up in the pot boiling until it becomes evident, and then it's more difficult to address it and resolve it. Conflict triggers happens to be strong, and then a deep personal and relational need is at the core of the problem. And when addressing and resolving conflict, both parties, all parties, as a matter of fact, need to feel safe and secure, also feel respected and valued, and each opinions merit the same worth. Recognizing and resolving conflicting needs. Now, of course, if we're out of touch with our own feelings, then that's going to make it even more difficult. Oftentimes, even though it changes the ultimate goal, first and far more importantly, we need to be able to recognize what needs changing. And oftentimes, I may not be able to see within myself what needs changing. So therefore, we use this each other as a barometer. The best way I can learn about myself is to receive feedback from a trusted individual. And the best way that I can learn about you is through observation. And if I observe you long enough, observe your mannerism and get to know you, then I know when it's safe to come upon you, when it's time to stay back, when it's time to interject. Observation is the key to gauging as a barometer when is the most appropriate time to handle a situation. Now, for me, one of the issues that I have with conflict resolution, I like to make amends immediately. And by wanting to make amends immediately, that means that I don't want to have to consciously carry the guilt that I've offended someone, and I want to make it right. I want to make it right immediately. But if you think about it, that's really being selfish, because I want to free myself from the uncomfortable feeling. But it may not necessarily be the time or appropriate for the next person. The next person that's involved may say, well, let's agree to discuss this at another time. The emotions are heightened. I'm hurt deeply, and I really can't talk about it right now. And if I continue to push but I need to apologize right now, and I need you to accept my apology, and then we can move on. No, I have to be considerate and tactful of the other person's feeling involved as well. Successful conflict resolution depends on one's ability to manage stress while remaining alert and calm. Very, very important. By staying calm, once again, I will be able to accurately read and interpret those verbal and nonverbal communication. That's basically kind of what I was saying. If I attempt to prematurely resolve an issue when the next person is not emotionally ready, then I can create more harm than good. So the key words there are the nonverbal communication, not necessarily what you're saying, but what it is that I'm perceiving from your body language. Of course, control your emotions and behavior. And when you're in control of your emotions, you can communicate your needs without threatening, frightening, or even punishing others. Pay attention to the feelings being expressed, as well as the spoken words of others. Of course, be aware and respectful of differences. By avoiding disrespectful words and actions, one can resolve the problem faster. At this time, Ella will address healthy and unhealthy ways of managing and resolving conflict. Ella, you're muted.
Sorry. Conflict triggers strong emotions and can lead to hurt, feeling, disappointment, and discomfort. When handling in an unhealthy manner, it causes irreparable rift, resentment, and breakup. Conflict is resolved in a healthy way. It increases your understanding of one another, build trust, and strengthen our relationship bond. Unhealthy response to conflict are characterized inability to recognize, respond to matter of great importance to the other, explosive anger, hurt, resentment, reaction, withdrawal of love, resulting into rejection, isolation, shame, fear of abandonment, expected of a bad outcome, fear and avoidance of conflict. Now, we don't want to have these, and this is so true. You feel rejected, you feel isolated, and then you, in your mind, you want to know why, what caused this. Okay, healthy response to conflict is capacity to realize and recognize the important matter, ready to forgive and forget. And I think that is the biggest problem in conflict is we say we forgive, but we don't forget. So it's very important that we have to do both in order to resolve the issue. The ability to seek compromise and avoid punishment. A belief resulting can support interest and need of both parties. Okay, I have four keys that I'm going to, four keys of conflict resolution. The ability to successful and manage conflict depend on the four keys. Together, the four keys form the fifth skill. So when I talk about these four skills, you got to resolve them in all four in order to form the fifth skill. And the fifth skill is the ability to take conflict and strive and resolve difference in ways that build trust and confidence. So if you apply these four ways, you'll be able to do the fifth, and that's build trust and confidence, and which is very important in resolving conflict. Number one, quickly relieve the stress. Most conflict, you do find that you're stressed. The capacity to remain relaxed and focused in tense situation is vital aspect of conflict resolution. So we got to learn how to control our emotions during the time of conflict. If you do not know how to stay centered in control of yourself, you become emotional overwhelmed in the challenge situation. The best way is rapid relief stress through the senses is sight, sound, touch, and smell. But each person responds different to these senses input. So you need to find the one that is smooth for you. Number two, recognize and manage your emotion. It is very important that you manage your emotion. Emotion awareness is the key to understanding yourself and others. It's the key. So you, in order to understand self, you got to be able to understand others. You'll be able to understand others. If you don't know how you feel and why you feel the way, you won't be able to communicate effectively or smooth over the disagreement. Although knowing your own feelings may seem simple, many people ignore or they try to sedate strong emotion like anger, sad, and fear. And usually when your emotions out of control, that's how you feel. But your ability to handle depends finding solution by strictly rational, the ability to face and resolve different will be impaired. And I have one that the scripture in the Bible, it comes from Proverbs 25:28. And it says, whoever has no rule, have no self-control of his own spirit is like a city with broken down without walls. So when you attack, when you have that conflict, you feel like you had an open attack. And that's because your defense, your walls are down because you're not in contact, with your emotions.
Ella, can you say that scripture again?
Okay, the scripture come from Proverbs 25:28. Whoever has no self-control over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls. So just think about that. When you're in the middle of conflict, that's the way you feel. And then guess what? You feel like you're open attack. And then next thing you know, by your emotion, now you want to attack. Okay. Okay, the third conflict, improving your non-communication skill. The most important information exchanged during conflict and argument is often communicated through nonverbal. And some of that nonverbal would be they moving their head or their hands up like this here. Okay, so you really can't communicate with that person. That's the indication saying, I don't want to hear what you got to say. Non-communication includes eye contact, facial expression, tone of voice, posture, touch, and gesture. When you're in the middle of the conflict, pay closely attention to the other person. Non-verbal signatures may help you figure out what the other person is really saying. So it's very important that you, in the middle of conflict, notice what that other person is doing. Respond in a way that builds trust. Get to the root of the problem. Simply nonverbal, such as calm tone of voice, assuming touch, and facial expression goes a long way toward diffusing a heated exchange. And also I have another scripture from Proverbs, the Wisdom Channel, and it says, and it comes from Proverbs 15:1. A soft answer turn away wrath, but grievous word, harsh word, stir up anger. So let's remember that a soft answer turn away wrath. Okay, the fourth, use humor and play to deal with the challenge. We can avoid many confrontation and resolve arguments and disagreement by communicating in a fair and humorous way. Humorous help you understand, help say the things otherwise would be difficult to express without creating a slap. However, it is important that you laugh with the other person. When humor plays are used to reduce tension and anger, reframe the problem, and put the situation in perspective, the conflict can actually become an opportunity for a greater connection of intimacy. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna give you tips. Oh no. Okay. All right. We're gonna come back to that. So it's very important, like I would come to bed. I said, Bet, I know you ain't serious about what you just said. Okay, now we're going to have Miss Bettye to give us tips on how to manage.
Okay, thank you, Ella. As Ella stated, the 4 conflict resolution skills, what she just gave you, lead up to the 5th and most important skill, which is the sum of all parts gives you the ability to take conflict in stride and resolve differences in ways that build trust and confidence. And throughout the presentation, it has been said that the conflict resolved effectively is an opportunity for growth.
Okay.
Now we're going to go to the tips for managing and resolving conflict. Managing and resolving conflict requires emotional maturity, self-control, and empathy. It also can be tricky, frustrating, and even frightening. And you can ensure that the process is as positive as possible by sticking to the following conflict resolution guidelines. First, make the relationship your priority. Maintaining and strengthening the relationship rather than winning the argument should always be your first priority. And be respectful of the other person and his or her viewpoint. And the key word is winning the argument. And if we will focus on changing our mindset as to the outcomes, then we see win-win outcomes rather than win-lose outcome. And oftentimes when we're in the midst of conflict or whatever, it becomes competitive. And we were taught to think that the outcome of competition is someone loses if someone wins. So we want to change that mindset and see win-win outcomes where everyone comes away the winner. And with the win-win outcome, then it won't be as detrimental for one to seek to become the winner at the expense of someone becoming a loser. No one loses, everyone come out winners. The second tip is focus on the present. We don't want to go high side and coming up with stuff. Years ago, we said we was going to resolve this, well, deal with one issue at a time. Not, I remember when you. That's the main thing what we're waiting on, the opportunity to bring everything up, and you don't want to do that. Because if you're holding on to those old hurts and resentments, then your ability to see the reality of the current situation will be impaired. Rather than looking to the past and assigning blame, just focus on what is expected to do right now in the here and now to solve the problem. Next, we want to pick your battles. Conflicts can be draining, so it's important to consider whether the issue is really worthy of your time and energy. And that is really so true, because the older I've gotten and the more mature I've become, it does not matter. There was a time it's just, I'm banking on because I'm right. Well, it does not matter who's right or who's wrong. If the issue I'm addressing or creating or attempting to diffuse is meaningless, what's the point? If it's meaningless, it doesn't merit the mental energy or time to address this, let it go. Be willing to forgive, and Ella talked about that. Resolving conflict is impossible if you're unwilling or unable to forgive. And of course, resolution lies in releasing the urge to punish. Sometimes we can use the truth as a bludgeon just to beat a person down. Get that opportunity. I was telling the truth, so my truth becomes a weapon. And we need to be mindful of that. Resolution lies in releasing the urge, as I said, to punish, which can never compensate for our losses, only adds to our injury, and by further depleting and draining our lives at the expense of self and others. The last tip we're going to talk about is know when to let something go. If you can't come to an agreement, agree to disagree. And we talked about that earlier. It takes two people to keep an argument going. So if the conflict attempt for resolution is going nowhere, then we can choose to disengage and move on. Now I'll talk a little bit about fair fighting and ground rules in conflict resolution. Ella mentioned this as well. Remain calm. Try not to overreact in situations. And by remaining calm, it will be more likely that others will consider your viewpoint. Because, you know, if I'm all bent out of shape, nobody will even want to hear what it is that I'm saying. Express your feelings in words and not action. Telling someone directly and honestly how you feel can be a very powerful form of communication. And it also can be a difficult task at hand, because if our personalities are different, such as a personality of a people pleaser, they really don't want to say what they think may cause another person to be upset or frustrated. But it is so powerful that you keep the task and say exactly what it is that you are feeling. And if you start to feel so angry or upset that you will lose control, take a time out and do something to help yourself feel steadier. Be specific about what is bothering you. Vague complaints and hard work are hard work to do. Just going around in a circle. I've talked about 20, 30 minutes and still hadn't told you why I'm upset with you. No hidden below the belt. Attacking areas of personal sensitivity creates an atmosphere of distrust, anger, and vulnerability. Avoid accusations, which will only put a person on the defense and cause them to feel that they need to defend themselves. Don't generalize. That goes back to what we're talking about, beating around the bush. Just go ahead straight to the point and get to the issue. Avoid make-believe, exaggerating or inventing a complaint. And we can do that when we're seeking attention now in a conflict. Don't stockpile. Storing up lots of grievances, we talked about that, and hurt feeling over time is very counterproductive. And avoid clamming up. If we decide that we're going to attack this issue, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and resolve it in a amicable way. But managing and resolving conflict by learning how to listen. Listening skills are so very important in aiding in resolving conflict. Listening strengthens us and informs us and makes it easiest for others to hear us. Tips of being a good listener: listen to the reason the other person gives for being upset. Make sure you understand what the person is saying, what the person is telling you from their point of view, not how I'm interpreting it. If necessary, repeat the other person's word or paraphrase to make sure that I'm hearing what it is that you're saying correctly. Ask if anything remains unspoken, giving the person time to think before answering. And resist the temptation to interject my own point of view until the other person has completely finished their message. And when listening to other people's point of view, the following responses are helpful as well. Encourage the other person to share his or her issues as fully as possible. You can make statements like, I want to understand what has you upset. I want to know what you're really hoping to gain from this. Clarify the real issues rather than making assumptions. Ask the questions that allow you to gain this information and which let the other person know you are trying to understand what it is that they're saying. Can you say more about that? Is that the way it usually happens? Of course, we talked about the restating and paraphrasing, restate back what I've heard to make sure I've heard what you said. It's kind of like the little thing when we were kids, you play that game, you whisper something in a person's ear and it go down the line, and when it gets to the end of the line, it's totally different from the first thing that the first person whispered in that person's ear. And reflect your feelings, be as clear as possible. I can imagine how upsetting this must be for you. And validate the concerns of the other person. Even if at that time the solution may be elusive, expressing appreciation can be a very powerful message if it is conveyed with integrity and respect. I really appreciate that we are talking about this issue. I am glad that we are trying to figure this out. Okay, and we are going to now go back to Ella. She's going to talk about how to effectively manage difficult conversations. Is this just me unable to hear you, Ella?
Okay, here are some tools
Okay.
that you can use. You can put this in your toolbox, and to use this is a guide of your action and ways to help to produce a peaceful solution of time of agreement. Okay, first we're going to look at if you're facing a conflict, is to use stop, think, and act model. Okay, first you're going to stop. And when you stop, first thing you're going to do, you're going to breathe down. And now you're ready and accurately to look at the problem at hand. So I'm going to teach you some breathing techniques. So what we're going to do is you're going to inhale through your nose, hold it, and then you're going to count 1, 2, 3, exhale. Okay, we're going to do it one more time. Inhale through your nose, hold it, and count to 3. 1, 2, 3, exhale through your mouth. Okay, and then also there are words you can say to calm yourself down. You can say, let this go. Or you can say, I am calm. I am happy. You know, and so, okay, so those some techniques that you can take with you to help you calm down. Okay, think. Ask yourself, what actually is the problem? Is it really a problem? Why? These are some questions that you can ask yourself. Is it my problem? Does it need immediately attention? What do I want? What is my goal? Why might I assume? What might be another person's point of view? What are my options? What are the potential consequences of each obstacle? What is my best choice? 3, act. Take action and responsibility for your action. Elevate your action and the outcome. What can I learn from this? Does the problem exist? If no, learn from experience. If yes, start over again. Sometimes you have to start over again. But these are some good questions to use the stop, act, and think model. And then if it has determined that there is no indeed a conflict that need to be resolved, there is additional clues to use. and you want to use the clue. C is for communication promptly, assertive, respectful. It's by initiating a private conversation and sharing your perspective and goal. Remember to talk to the person, not about them. And usually conflict, we'll do the opposite. We'll talk about the person, but not talk to the person. L, listen to the other person's point of view. Allow them to speak without interruption. Gender judgment. Then reflect on what you hear to clarify what they are saying. You understand their prospect. Practice empathy. Help me to understand your point of view. Also discuss one issue at a time and get the facts and clarify the assumption. And most of the time when we have conflict, we want to talk about more than one thing, but it's better to just talk about one thing at a time. And like I said, get the fact, get some clarification. Okay, the next, explode options and solution. Brainstorm to generate options. Choose solutions that works for you both and act on. S, so how did it go? Evaluate it went, and then move one plan, one or plan next step. What did I learn? Okay, now we're going to have Bettye, and she's going to teach us the effective way how to manage through conversation.
Ella, can you slide the next
Yes, I
handout?
I got it. Here you go.
Okay, and it's basically just another handout, and we'll email these to you, or get. We didn't get a chance to get it in the chat, so you can print them, and then you can kind of go over them or use them at your discretion. But this is just basically. Scroll up a little bit more, Ella. This is basically a just an. Oh, that's good. That's good. This is just scroll down just a little, Ella. Scroll back down just a little for your end. Basically, how to effectively manage difficult conversation. And basically, what we were going to do is just give a little simple example. So now, if you're still stuck, and if you think about it, most of the information that we presented has been repetition. But one thing you keep in mind, repetition is good. That's how we learn, because something that we didn't hear early on, we may hear it later because we are just easily distracted. A lot of the times we're often, even if we're right in front of the presentation, then a lot of the times we are mind racing. If you're anything like me, multitasking, so to speak, and not really tasking at all because of doing everything, nothing getting done, not anything's getting done. But anyway, repetition is the key, and repetition is good. So most of the tips that you heard kind of overlap and interact with each other, and that's how it's supposed to be. So now we're going to talk about, if you're still stuck, then this is a little example, starting the conversion. So Ella, I want to talk to you about something, and I appreciate it if you would first listen to what I have to say, and then I will do the same for you. Okay?
Okay.
State the problem. Ella, I noticed that every time I start a conversation, you seems to take over that conversation. And I feel intimidated because I'm thinking that you don't respect what it is that I'm saying. And what I want is for you to mutually accept what I'm saying as being a competent professional as you are. So
are-
now, Ella, you will say, help
You
me
are so
understand your
right.
point of view.
You are so right.
So, but you help me understand your point of view. What is going on? What is that like for you? Am I accurately describing myself to you? The gaining the understanding, reflecting and paraphrasing. What do you hear me saying, Ella?
Well, you're saying that I constantly interrupt you when you're talking. That's what you're saying.
Well, Ella, that's part of it, but I also seem to think that I'm hearing a little agitation in you replying to me.
You can take it any way you want to take it.
Okay. So, given what we just talked about, what are some possible solutions that could work for us both?
Well, one thing that I learned, of course, you all, I've been writing notes ever since you've been talking because I'm a student today. And anyway, but one thing that I learned was that it takes 15 minutes for a person's heart rate to slow down so they can calm down. So it sounds like from Ella's tone that you might have to wait a few minutes to start the conversation back up. But that's just
Exactly.
one way.
Yes, exactly.
And
Excellent observation. Anyone else?
And when you do start the conversation back up after you done cool down from what she just told you, because they were pretty rough. Okay, after you cool down, you can say, well, Ella, are you saying that you don't care how I feel?
Okay.
So at this point, would this be the point where you stop?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
You go do the act. Yes.
Wow.
Okay. Okay. So with those tips, Ella, is there anything that I can say to make this less frustrating for you?
Yes, you need to apologize.
Okay. I'm sorry if I offended you. And I hopefully we'll be able to work through this at another time. How's that?
I'm sorry too, Betty, if I offended you and constantly interrupt our conversation when we're talking. We are better together.
Thank you. Now, okay, the point is, you see how I ended up having to humble myself and take some flack because I could have went back and forth with her. What am I apologizing for? You're the one intimidated. I hadn't done anything. No, but I didn't do that. I humbled myself and I made a statement that was considerate of her and how she felt. And immediately she came back with have de-escalated her tone as well as her attitude. And sometimes you all, that's what it takes. Sometimes we have to be on the other end to perceive the situation throughout. And it is we're not looking for a win or loser situation here. You remember, we're looking for win-win outcomes. So even if I think that she has wronged me, if I approach this from a humble standpoint and ready to compromise, then you see what happened? She immediately let her guard down and we worked out and reached an amicable solution. Because like Miss Owens was saying, she said, that's kind of rough that she was kind of coming in. Okay. We have a few more minutes and then we're going to open up for additional questions and comment, but really quickly, we want to just say that finally, here are some conflict resolution do's and don'ts. The do, communicate face to face, manage your own emotions, use language that is understood, recognize and embrace differences, understand interests and perspectives of self and others, act sooner rather than later, focus on the present situation / problem, actively listen and pay attention, be present, clear, and direct, be honest, genuine, and respectful, assert yourself, be aware of body language, convey the value of your relationship. Ella?
Okay, and I'm gonna say a few of the don'ts. Waiting and avoiding issues, assuming, get defensive, interrupting, ignoring the feedback, arguing and feeling judged or criticized, and stop communication. So now we're going to open up for any questions or answers that you may have.
Okay, I just want to say this is some great teaching. I tend to be one of those people pleaser people that you were talking about. And it is hard sometimes to be honest, you know, when you're in it, I guess rather I tend to avoid the conflict when it's something maybe that I should be dealing with, you know, because like you said, when you don't deal with it, then you tend to stockpile a lot of stuff and you look around and you done exploded somewhere. So this has been real good for me. Now, another question that I want to ask, and I don't want to monopolize time, but you know, a lot of us find ourselves sometimes in a situation, say you at a family gathering or something like that, and something becomes real heated. Should we try to de-escalate that, or are we best, you know, because that's where a lot of stuff starts, you know.
Right. Now, what I'll suggest you do is separate the parties. I wouldn't try to de-escalate it between the two of them. I would separate the parties. The one that's in that's most receptive mode to hearing what you have to say, pull them to the side and see if you can get them to come out of it.
That's a great, yeah. And if you can get them to come out of it and come to the side, then maybe they can stop long enough to think.
Exactly. They will no longer feed into the other party, and then the opportunity presents itself. Then you bring in the other party, but it's not together now if they're still really heated with each other, because sometimes they are not able. See, if it's at the time where it needs to be a breaking point and they're not able to break on their own, then the separation, that's the best thing you can do to intervene.
Good point.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else? Comments, questions?
I saw one of my supervisors years ago. She tried this concept. There was a conflict in the community, and what she did was would not allow the different opponents that had different views to speak to one another. They had to speak to her, and that cut down the tension. So she was the mediator, became the mediator of the conflict.
Exactly. Exactly.
And sometimes some conflict you do need to have a mediator.
Exactly.
Well, very good, ladies.
Okay, well, thank you. So it's like it was an hour presentation and we finished just right on time, 7:30.
Yeah, I think people who go back and see this later will find it very interesting and will get a lot of it. I typed a lot of it and put it on the Facebook page, Community Library of Mississippi, as well as it's in the chat, but the chat is only the 9 of us can get the chat. So I tried to type some of it on the Facebook page.
What do you need for me to be able to get the notes that you had up? You need my email?
Yes, yeah, we have, Miss William, we have your email. I can send it to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, I would like a
It's
copy
been
as
really
well,
good,
please.
ladies. I enjoyed it.
Okay, I sure
Thank
will.
you all, and thank you all for attending. Just
And
everyone.
thank you all for bringing that too, bringing that really great information.
Mhm.
Yes. And then, you know, Ella, you can reply to everybody that I sent the link to and send it
Yes,
to
ma'am.
everybody at one time.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Yes, and this is so
Oh,
the next meeting is Tuesday, and LaRonda Coleman, who just spoke, she's on our board of directors. Her seminar and talk is Mississippi Gun Laws and Youth, and hers is Tuesday. And then next week, Felicia Marshall, founded Grant Me Justice. And by the way, if anybody knows any mothers that are victims of gun, their children lost their children to gun violence, she interviews mothers. And her presentation is The Cost of Murder, which is next Thursday. The Rhonda's is from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday, October 19th. And The Cost of Murder is Thursday, October the 21st. Oh, this is in October, from 5 to 6. And then we have the Holiday Book Festival, where we have the poetry contest and the spelling bee. The spelling bee is for grades 1 through 6, and the poetry contest is for all ages, beginning with age 6. And so we have a link, and you can click on that link and register for any of the other presentations in this speaker series. Our theme is Healthy City, Healthy Families, Solution and Crime Preventions. I just want to commend you ladies on what you just taught us. It was very valuable, especially part about forgive and forget. Because I think that I forgive, but I don't never forget. What's the difference? What's the difference between forgive and forget?
Well, the difference is when you don't forgive, a month later, your mind will cause something that person gonna cause you to recall. Your mind is going to recall that event again. And then next thing you know, you got those angry feelings against that person again because you had let it go.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think I forgive, but I don't never forget. That's anyway.
But you know,
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
You actually can forgive without forgetting, because if you think about it, your memory, what's embedded in your memory, that's in your memory. But at least when you forgive, say for instance, like Ella say, when you come in the presence of that person, you won't feel all this animosity bogging up in your heart. You know, you won't feel the need to either avoid this person or become angry. But you'll know when you haven't forgiven a person. If I haven't forgiven, if I say I haven't forgiven, I haven't forgotten. But if I haven't forgiven, I'll go all the way around the world to keep from going in this person's presence, trying to avoid this person, because I just don't want to come in contact with them. And then if I do happen to run into them and feel this balled up inside my heart, in my chest, then I know I haven't forgiven them. But now, if I have forgiven this person, and when I see this person, and then we may even have a conversation, but I won't forget. I hadn't forgotten it because it's part of my memory. But at least I have forgiven, and that's the main thing. I'd rather to forgive and not for. I'd rather forgive And well, I can't forget anyway. I probably can too, though. I can forget too, because I call that age appropriate. Some stuff I do forget. But if I know if something has happened, like the breakup of a relationship, or a separation of a friendship, or upset with something that my child has done, and more than likely I'm not going to forget it, but it's not going to hold me hostage to that emotion of being angry, upset, or frustrated.
Okay. Well, all right. Thank you guys for a wonderful seminar and talk and discussion, which is so relevant. All of the other seminars and talks that we've had so far. Let's see, we had rise of gun violence, engagement to prevent teen violence. They're all on Community Library Mississippi Facebook page, and this one will be on the Facebook page as well as on YouTube, but it's also on Facebook Live right now as we speak, still going. So anyway, thank you guys. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and as the facilitator said, let's never assume, and let's try to get along. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
all.
Have a
Good
good
night.
evening, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
presentation, Miss Betty.
Thank you.
Great
Yeah.
presentation.
Uh-huh.
Great
Good
you.
presentation, Ellen.
Mm.
You all did a wonderful job.
Yes, they did. They
Thank
did.
you. Bye-bye.
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 Well, we'll see you all next Tuesday. I think it's the next one, right? Well,
Yes.
whenever the next one is,
No,
we have
next
it.
is not next Tuesday. It's in October 19th.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.